Well, don't I feel a little bit stupid here? The Nepheri available, or the blueprint is available after you have completed the new war quest. You cannot get the blueprint for it until after the new war quest, because the bounties, the normal bounties, don't appear until after the new war quest. But because of this, you can buy them in the marketplace for 180 platinum. I thought this was a bug since they just straight up refused to mention the 5 mystery weapons. So I picked them up, all 3 of them, for platinum. And turns out it wasn't a bug, they weren't hiding them, they're literally right there on the marketplace. And even though I'm going to contradict myself on more than one occasion, and considering I've already recorded the end of this and have already said these aren't actually my favourite weapon of the 3 of them, they are. When these things came out, I saw them and they are a new style fang blade that shoot fire out the front. I instantly equipped these after playing with the 3 of them. Visually, these are the best. Damage wise, oh yes, out of the 3, when it comes to damage, I think these are possibly the best. Just all round my favourite. The reason that it will not maintain that spot of being my favourite of these 3 weapons simply comes down to the range. Fangs don't have the best of range. Even though the Fire Blast does, these don't. Which is the only reason that they are not going to be classed as my favourite, even though they are. I do love me a good dual-wielding melee weapon. As you can imagine, the description of these things literally says the dual flaming fang blades. I said this the first time I saw them. They are a new version of the fang, finally. This was, wow, throw your brain back to 2013, one of the best melee weapons. The quickest melee weapon in the game. It just kind of annihilated all. And that was a huge, huge improvement on it. The Fang Prime. Which, oh, we'll have to equip because you saw it's green across the board for this thing. We'll ignore that one, it's just another version of it. But these fall into a realm of same attack speed, more range. It is the range that kind of suffers on these. More slam attack, more slam radius, more slide attack, less crit multiplier, more status, and then less impact, less puncture, less slash, but does have heat to kind of counter this because it does more damage. And then you get into the dual wielding side of it and the heavy attack, and well, the heavy attack is doubled because it's a heavy blade. Oh, did I also mention the fact that this thing shoots fire? They are quite literally, finally, we've needed it for way too long, an upgraded fang. From this, yeah, it is just across the board so much better than the standard Fang, and slightly better than the Fang Prime, simply because with that heat element to it, and the fact that it blasts out 4 short-range fireballs, it breathes fire. Because technically when you do it, the range of it isn't really that impressive, but considering the range of the Fang is kind of limited, this makes up for it quite a bit. And I've looked through it, and the only projectile I can see is kind of right there. Well, and there. So that would be 1. That would be 2. I'm guessing that there would be 3. And notice where it is coming from and the position your frame takes every time you shoot fire. It doesn't come from the weapon. It comes from your frame. You'd literally just put your head forward and shoot flame out the top of your head. And so many people are going to tell me off for the build on this, as they always do, because I have the 4 dual stat elemental mods in here, increasing the status over 100%, and I don't have condition overload. Could go condition overload, or could throw Riven on it that has attack speed, melee damage. It does increase impact, does kind of ruin the puncture, which is Not so good because it is one of the higher numbers to it, but yeah, when you're doing that kind of damage, it works. I'll just put it this way. With prime pressure point in here, and always go for prime pressure point over sacrificial pressure because it does more damage. Sacrificial steel, on the other hand, that is making its way into more and more of my melee weapons because it does an extra 100% crit chance over true steel. That is 120 or 220, because now I have the points available to do this. It lowers it just a little. The status would of course stay the same, but you can heavy attack so much more with this equipped. Having the Riven in there is actually making this thing so much better. I did swap out Fury for it, that I'm not regretting in the slightest, because it did have a little bit of attack speed to it. But that means, because it is in a dash polarity, I can't put attack speed back on this thing because it simply won't fit in the polarity that has been made for it, which is fine, but still kind of a little bit horrible at the same time. Because the attack speed is what makes this thing what it is. Without the attack speed, it's a fang. I cannot get round the fact that they finally made a new, better version of the fang that has quite a lot of damage to it. It just kind of eats through enemies. It's amazing. The slam attack of it is kind of through the roof. And being a dual wielding weapon, you have to remember that the heavy attack is also doubled. Heavy attacks with dual wielding melees is basically the normal damage doubled. It just goes for ×2, which is... I wish it had more crit. It's pretty much the... I want to say the worst part of it, but it's not. I just wish it had a little bit more crit. I have sacrificial steel in this and it only took it to 67.2. Can increase it way beyond that, yes. But I wasn't willing to go beneath the... I'm trying to remember what it actually ended up being after forming it and everything else. 112.2% status. I'm just not willing to sacrifice the extra status for the sake of a little bit extra crit. It has enough considering the attack speed it has, and it's well over 50%. With the 100% status means you are hitting for more than one element at a time, because they did change it that over 100% means that it won't 100% one, it'll do one and sometimes do another. It's weird like that, but it means it's going to be doing more elemental damage, which is great because this thing does have heat on it that kind of worked well with the way that we have the thing set up. It was running viral and radiation simply because the heat was increased. You can of course swap them round at any point and run blast and corrosive. There could be, I'm trying to remember what the other easy combination is, gas and magnetic. It just depends what enemy you are going against as to how you want to set this up, but you just have to swap the order of the 4 dual stat elemental mods. And I was just... the biggest downside to this that I tried to overcome, because obviously primed reach is a thing and it will add 3 to the melee range, taking it from 1.9 to obviously 4.9, which it helped a lot because I did try it in there, but you just have to sacrifice so much damage to fit that in there. It just kind of, it wasn't worth it. This thing does have nice range for its passive ability, but it's just when swinging the actual melee weapons themselves, the Fang has always suffered from the same problem. It has a fairly close range, but it's supposed to. So even though that is the biggest downside to it, it's not a weapon killing downside. It just, I would have loved it to have a full 2 range, would have helped just that tiny little bit more. And even though these are probably my favourite visually of all of these, well, the 3 weapons from after the New War, the 3 melee weapons from the New War. Technically there's 4, but you get what I mean. There is 3 of these particular weapons, just because visually, huh. Huh. It just looks amazing. And I've had lots of luck with this. At least you're not doing the silly sparking effect now. I have loved this thing. As soon as the update came out, I jumped in, and there's the silly effect I was hoping to avoid, and I bought them thinking it might be a bit of a bug, get them a bit early, and have been using them on and off since then. Because, I mean, they are just so good. Love that. The heavy attack doing this, and this is where I kind of try to catch it. Oh, a little bit too late, but still. That's a shockwave being shot out of them. Makes up for range a lot. Which is why it hurts me to have to say, even though these are probably the best of the 3 weapons, not my favourite. And with that, we'll leave this off here. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.